Of course you want to be a champion. Of course you want to be working towards winning titles.
Be happy, but never satisfied.
Better than ever.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Ultimate Canada Championships. We are the Canadian Ultimate Championships junior divisions. Right now we are watching a junior women's game here at the Newton Sports Complex. We are located on the traditional and unceded territories of the Semiahmoo, Katsi, Kwantlen, Kwajalein, Kaikito, and Tsawwassen First Nations. Right now we have a team from Toronto, junior women from TORO versus Quebec City's Origine. My name is Troy Weston. I am sitting here in this wonderful sunshine with my co-commentator, Danny Nakobe.
Otherwise known as Danny Proby. We're like transitioning our names to being a blended name. I don't know if any of you out there do that. It's kind of like new agey, but very, very excited to be here. One thing that I'm most excited for about this game is that this game really matters. And I know that it's weird to say that, but sometimes the games don't matter that much. Like a lot of stuff's been figured out, but where these two teams sit in their pools, they're potentially heading into a three-way tie type situation. So both of them have Origine beat Nitro by 1 and Nitro beat TORO by 1. So TORO, if in a world they beat Origine by 1, they're now in a three-way tie. So scores matter, everything matters. We are excited to be here, and I mean, it's hot and it's windy, so it's going to be whichever team wants it more.
Absolutely. It does definitely prove to be an exciting game. The games that they had leading up to this point, both universe point games, and both of them have come out on top on some of those universe games, so it proves that they're both already gritty. It looks like we have TORO starting on defense, getting ready for the pull. And we are off. Bala with that baller pull down to the brick mark. Origine centering the disc to Manzi. Manzi swinging it across. Finds a little bit upfield there to Lefebvre. Looking to swing it back. Manzi in the middle again. TORO coming down with a cup to start off with, really taking advantage of this wind. Manzi again taking the center position of the handlers on the Origine line, looking for that little up the line, gaining a few yards and centering it back to Breton. Looked up the field, gaining a few more yards just on TORO's brick line now. Over to the sideline as TORO melts to person defense. And we have Manzi looking to get it into the end zone. Finds a player just outside the end zone, very close, and our first score of the game. Leclerc.
Looks like there's a pick call on the play. I'm seeing some hands kind of going up in the pick motion. Or they're just flexing on each other. There's definitely some players that had stopped moving when the player was able to make that catch in the end zone.
Observer Ben Clar there stepping in to just clarify a few things, and the throw will go back to Breton. About 5 yards outside the end zone. And we're back in. A nice little I-O break and a backwards diving catch. And Origine have drawn first blood. The score is now 1-0.
Now, playing on a live stream field in front of a crowd is a very, very intense thing to do. And to be able to not only have the confidence to make a break throw like that, but to have the composure and the focus to make that catch on the first point shows that this team, Origin team, is here to play. Now, I know we were talking with their coaches earlier, Troe, and they had said that their style of play has been influenced with kind of a particular way that they train.
That's right. Quebec City trains 2/3 of the year indoors in a 4-on-4 space. And so that typically means a little bit more of a small ball style ultimate with really short, quick passes moving up the field.
And you saw that they were very composed that whole point. They were
Mhm.
not making any risky throws. Maybe that last throw was, in theory, a risky shot, but the receiver was open. Maybe it was just a little bit behind, but I think they were moving the disc up really patiently in that zone.
Could have been a little bit of sisterly connection there from Maïva Breton to Kayla Breton. So younger sister throwing to her older sister there. And Origine now with the pull.
A little bit of confusion on the pull here, but we're ready to kick off.
Leclerc with the pull. Centering pass to Shimoda. Origine putting down a cup as well, also taking advantage of the wind. We'll see how TORO now fares with the wind. Hunter on the sideline, swinging it back to Shimoda. Finding a hole in the cup, back to Bond. Norris, big hole, big gainer up there to Wood, who goes for the deep shot that's just out of the reach of Hunter. Origine will get a chance to score their first break.
I like that look in general, but they're throwing kind of right into where the wind is, and any frisbee or disc that goes a little bit higher is going to get picked up there. So that's just a tough throw. You got to get a little bit more inside edge on that in order to make that flatten out.
TORO opting for the person defense on the turn. Enrique with the disc right now for Origine, looking for something upfield, kind of goes for a Hail Mary pass. It does not come back in line, and the observer is calling a stall down.
A lot of times you'll see that with a team's defensive line's offense, where especially if they're just playing zone and the cutters are maybe people that were just in the cup or something on a turn, they're just tired. And it's hot out here, so oftentimes you don't get the looks that you normally would get at the beginning of the day.
And that is definitely the low side of the field, where you want to push people because they are throwing directly into the wind, upfield, crossfield, any way they have to throw, it is into the wind. And that's a dangerous spot to be in.
So I believe that we're going to have a turnover where the disc landed, and I think it just landed just in bounds here on this sideline.
Yes, it must have. If they're coming in down here, if it never entered in bounds, it would be where it crossed the line, which would be back further. But if it came back in, which obviously it did, since they're taking it here, Norris picks up for TORO. Looks for the long bomb right away. And TORO comes down with it. An excellent read by Wood there and throws it into the end zone. TORO on the board, 1-1.
I believe that was to Bond for the goal. So TORO escaping getting broken by sending a deep disc to some trusted receivers. So we had that throw come up from, who was it?
Norris was the huck there from the sideline.
Norris, 27, just trusting the teammates to make plays, and it worked out.
It's already proving to be a bit of an exciting game. I think we're going to see a lot of those hucks coming up, trying to just trust the receivers downfield. And we're going to, I guess, see who we got of the grittier team that wants that disc a little bit more and is going to come down with it a few more times.
I know we talked about Origine and how they had been playing some fours a lot in their offseason, but we had quite a few of these TORO players also competing in 4 JUCs in the inaugural four JUCs, so the indoor 4-on-4 tournament. A BC team ended up going as well, so they have small ball experience, and that definitely helps when we're playing a lot of zone.
Yes. Do you think we're going to see another zone look on this defensive line, Danny?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Bala with another big pull, but sails out of bounds. So Origine will get to bring it to the center of the field. Ingodui with the disc for Origine. Oh, a different zone. We have a different zone look here.
Bit of an arrowhead, so straight up mark. Trying to put a little bit more pressure into the inside of the middle of the field.
And Origine showing they know how to play their small ball with those quick little give and goes up the field. Breaking the zone. Nice low catch there from Godin. Looking to reset it now that Toro has switched up to person defense. Lefebvre on the sideline finds Manzi up the sideline again. And it looks like our observer on that sideline is calling her out of bounds. So there will be a turnover.
Now, observers do make active in and out calls, which I personally like. It moves the game along a lot faster.
I agree. That is the only active call that they make, though. Centering past to Bala from Toro. Oh, and we have just a little bit of a bobble there, unfortunately, from Bedi. So Origine will get another chance just outside, just inside the Toro's brick mark. Manzi looking for something downfield. Finds Breton just outside the end zone, who slips it in to Lefebvre for another score. 2-1 for Origine.
Now, Breton doing a lot, Kayla Breton rather, doing quite a bit so far in this game. I've been already really impressed with maturity. We've seen quite a few games today where a lot of the throws are really rushed and often too far in front of the receiver. Whereas I feel like here we're seeing a lot of people making nice touch passes right to where the person is running. It helps a lot, because I think in the open game I was watching before this, there were just too many layouts, and that means there's going to be too many people cramping. And I mean, they're not masters players yet, but it does pay a price on your body in the long term of a tournament. So being able to be patient, and then when you get that opportunity, taking advantage of it pays off in the long run.
Absolutely. Just a huge shout out to our two sponsors, Discraft, who provides all of the discs that we use here at CUC and with Ultimate Canada throughout the year. And another huge thank you to our apparel sponsor, Be Ultimate. If you have not got your swag yet for CUC, the swag tent is open all week. They are selling some pretty awesome shirts, shorts, pants, discs, hats, you name it. You'll find it there. And they are better than ever. Origine with the pull. Will stay in bounds. A really great pull right to the front corner of the end zone. Toro centers the disc. And Origine can't quite contain the big throws from Toro as they just go one after the other, looking for a final throw in the end zone to Hunter, but unfortunately she just could not come down with that as it sails over her head. Those discs are so hard to read. Origine now will get another chance to break. Player looking for something up the field, finds a break pass up to the sideline, and another little huck down the sideline to Le Chaussee. And our first break of the game, Le Chaussee to Dufour. Origine have a break on the board.
Now, Maëlys Le Chasseur there, I think if you are familiar with Ultimate, you will have seen her name before. She was a star on the U20 team that competed, Team Canada, that competed in Poland last summer. She's known for her big skies and her big layout Ds, but here she's showing us that she can throw perfect throws on a dime on a platter for her teammates. She was also actually the injury reserve player for U24s this year as well, and she's still in high school.
That is an impressive resume already.
So first break of the game, pretty exciting. TORO calling a timeout to regroup quite a little bit, and I think that oftentimes is all teams need. Not only does it allow your team a chance to kind of catch your breath and get your O-line a chance to kind of maybe have some water, but it also might put a bit of a damper on Origine's momentum as well, because they're feeling themselves, they're feeling good, they want to get back out there and get another break. Now they got to wait.
Yeah, it's a really smart move from the team that like kind of gets down a break to just cut off that momentum. We're really seeing that both of these teams can play in the wind right now, though. We just had a couple of unfortunate turns from the TORO players, but both of them are currently playing some good small ball, but also still looking for those opportunities downfield.
I'm a very big fan of teams that huck it. I'm very biased. I just think it's really fun, exciting ultimate. I like dinking it, like dink, 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 and then huck. It makes it really exciting as an observer or as a watcher of the game. And I think TORO's choice there to send it deep was the right choice. But again, going this direction, the wind is a little bit trickier.
I agree. They really took advantage of moving that disc quickly and trying to get it off. And Origin wasn't able to contain in the zone. And it was just that last pass that maybe should have gone to one side of her or the other rather than directly over her head, because those ones are the hardest to read. But other than that, I really do feel like TORO made the right choices there. So.
Yeah, that's very common. You'll see a lot of people wanting to throw to where the person is rather than putting it out in front, and it's definitely a skill to put it out in front of somebody.
Yeah. Origine with the pull. Norris with the huge huck again, but just sails over the head of Oaxaca. Can't come down with that one. Origin picking it up on their own goal line. They have an entire field to work it upwind to score this break. Oh, and we have an interception from Oaxaca. Breton couldn't quite find her receiver there. Oaxaca now looking for something downfield to keep the disc. Looked like she bobbled it a little bit, and now we're having a stall down count call.
The observers having a little bit of a chat themselves so that if the players do go to them and need their advice or their ruling, they're ready to go.
And then we've got Ben Clark and Sandra Hansen on the observing team today. Huge thank you to all of our observers who do some tireless work all week long observing these games in this heat.
In those black shorts and black shoes.
And it looks like Shimoda is going to keep the disc, so this stall down was either retracted or Shimoda looking downfield, finds Oaxaca in the end zone. We have double happiness. Oh, do we? One observer calling it in. They may be discussing it. And it is in. It is in. So a confirmed double happiness for Chichi Oaxaca. So if you don't know what double happiness, for those of you listening, it is usually referred to as someone who gets the defensive block and also scores the point, which Chichi just did.
Now, if you've heard of double happiness, you also know that there's a hand signal. So basically, you put both your hands beside your head, flip it so the back of your hands are touching the sides of your head, and you run up to the person and you say bookends, and you wiggle your fingers. So if you can imagine that, that is the signal for bookends that you can do, or double happiness.
I appreciate that you just did this sitting next to me, even though no one can actually see you right now.
I needed to describe it while I was doing it. Back of your hands, wee, like a little moose. But yeah, double happiness is great. It's good. That type of thing, those kinds of performances you need to kind of pull the momentum back onto your side. Now, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to the TORO coach, Emma, who you've actually coached with before, Joey, but
I
she
have.
is now the head coach of the U20 women's team. So if you are watching this and you are wanting to try out for the women's team and you're at nationals, make sure you go say hi, introduce yourself.
Emma Seaborn, coach of TORO, along with co-coaches Sarah Lamb and Gabe Isaac. On the Origine sign, we have Vin Ngodui, Pascal Dufour, and Susie Dufour. Great coaching teams for both these teams here. Great upwind pull from TORO. Sails past the brick line. TORO coming down in person defense. Oh, a bid from Oaxaca. This one, Ugochi Oaxaca, fun fact, twin sister of the Chichi who just had the double happiness. But Origine maintains possession of the disc. Another huck downfield, Origine just outside the end zone. Great read there from Asselin. Resetting Dufour. And back to Jourdain. Again, just outside the end zone and punts it up the line, inbounds. And that is up. Point. That is a point for Origine. It is 4-2.
All right. So how that works with the observers is that they need to wait to make sure. Basically, they signal to each other that they think it was in. Then they got to scan the field to make sure that there's no call happening. And then if they see that there's no call, they'll put their hands up in the air to signify that it was a goal, and then people can rush the field. But at that point, I think with that catch, people were kind of standing there. It kind of looked like there might have been a call. So the observers were a little bit stuck for a minute before they could clear it up. Okay, so it looks like we probably have a water break happening right now. So again, it is quite hot out here. These athletes are playing on turf. There's little like black turf bits in there. So it's just radiating heat from the ground. And so there are mandatory longer kind of water breaks between certain points. Once you get to 4 and what other intervals?
4 and 12 are the two added ones other than half, which is at 8 points.
Right. All right. So Origine still up. Is it 2 breaks or is it just the 1 break?
They're up just the 1 break, but they're up by 2 points right now, 4-2 for Origine. It's only been the 1 upwind break scored so far. So we'll see if TORO can climb back with a break of their own before half.
Yeah, usually after you get the first upwind break, the breaks usually come in pairs if the wind is really strong, but the wind isn't quite strong enough for us to see all the scores coming into one end zone. And so that did not happen.
You can see TORO's O-line taking the field. Really headed up by their center handler, Shimoda, who's been so far a critical asset in holding the TORO O-line and really getting those discs centered back and keeping the O-line grounded.
You can hear the crowd starting to get into it. The TORO sideline is doing some cheers. You can hear some parents from Quebec starting to holler. I love the sideline support from these Team Quebec players.
And the beer tent's even open if parents want to grab something to drink while they're watching. Parents only.
Parents.
Origine coming down with a zone for a downwind point, and TORO taking advantage with the huge huck we see, and she's looking good, and she finds Patel in the end zone. What a huck.
It's interesting that you had just said they're putting on a zone downwind and then an immediate throw deep and an easy pancake catch at the back of the end zone.
Downwind zone is very challenging because you really have to get in the way of those hucks very quickly and to keep it contained to the the other team's half of the field. That is exactly why most teams don't throw an upwind zone on, because of exactly what we just saw, what TORO just showcased and took advantage of. Do you know who it was with that huck?
I have the number written down here, but I can't remember. I think it was Addison Wood, but I could be misremembering.
It was a beautiful huck from the far sideline to
stunning.
the center of the field, nice and leading, really easy to catch.
Where we're sitting on the field, it is quite hard to see all their numbers. Plus, it's just very, very bright. So we will make some errors along the way, but in general, we're perfect. So it's okay.
That's true. I actually didn't know you could make a mistake, Danny. That's news to me.
I mean, I did say on the last stream that it wasn't possible.
Okay. Leclerc with the disc again now. Huge huck again. Both teams really looking to huck downwind, but an interception from TORO. And TORO will fight back. Forbes with just a pass that's slightly out of the reach of Weatherup. So Origine will get this back. Enrique picking the disc up. A nice little up the line cut from Leclerc. The TORO putting a good defense there, forcing an over the top pass, but an amazing grab from Enrique. And Leclerc will catch that in the end zone with a pass from Le Chaussee. 5-3 for Origine.
I'm very impressed with how clean this game has been so far. And like for it to be the third game of the day in the heat with the win, I know it's a broken record, but the fact that there's just so many clean holds is just a testament to like how focused and determined both these teams are.
What Danny means by clean is that there's been no turnovers. So a clean point is one with no turnovers. So if you have a clean O point, that means you started on offense, you didn't turn the disc over, and you scored it.
I mean, even though there was a turnover there, it wasn't completely clean. But for my standards at this tournament and some of the streams I've seen, this game has been exceptionally clean.
I would agree with you there.
There was one turnover per side. And I think that's
not bad. That's really not bad at all.
Pretty darn good. So normally, if you don't know this going at home, you typically put, in this level anyways, your stronger throwers, offensive players on offense, but they also typically end up being your stronger defenders too. So if you're starting by receiving the disc, usually it's your strongest 7, in theory. And the team that's pulling to you might have some of those strong 7 players on it, but they also have some players that are just relentless defenders that might not be quite as talented with the disc. So it is harder for them to score in general.
Origine pull just sails a little bit out of the bounds, so TORO will get to bring this to the middle. Norris picking up for TORO. Norris opting for that huck immediately to the back of the stack, cutting Hall Smith. Patel just outside the end zone. It can't quite connect, but it does look like there is a call on the throw.
I didn't see any contact from where we are, but as they say in the biz, we were not with best perspective.
Definitely. Looks like the observers are just chatting about what they saw. And then they will come over and ask the players to clarify what they're calling and if there's a contest or no contest. So the players can opt to go to the observers or not. The observers are often there just to clarify what the rule is and to facilitate a discussion, and they will not make a ruling unless the players ask them.
In this circumstance, if I'm on Origine, I would ask for the observer's perspective. Like if I really felt like I didn't foul the person, the smart thing to do is to ask them. If you're unsure, a foul contest is fine. But if you're really sure you didn't foul them, go to the observer, because it's more likely that if you're right, it's going to be a turnover in your favor versus the disc going back like it does right here.
It does not look like they asked for the observer perspective. We saw Ben do a signal for foul and then the signal for contest. So the signal for observer ruling is hands tapping on the shoulders. But TORO gets the disc back. But unfortunately, there is another turnover as the disc goes slightly wider than Norris intended.
We've seen a lot of discs kind of sail out the back of this corner, so that is unsurprising to me. But Norris certainly taking on a large responsibility with the frisbee.
Breton with the disc, centers it. Manzi, a nice little break pass up the field to Lefebvre. Manzi on the sideline to Breton with the huge huck. Coming down with it, Nadeau. And another turnover, unfortunately, just out of the reaching hands of Manzi. So TORO will have another chance to score this downwind point. Norris with the huck. This time it connects with Hall Smith on the sideline. Breaks to Patel. Shimoda now. Oh, and a little bit of a bobble from Bon. Origine with another opportunity. And Breton calls a timeout. We have our first timeout from Origine of the game.
Now we have 2 timeouts per half per team, and they are 70 seconds long, being timed by the observer. So, Troy, you've coached quite a bit. In what specific scenarios do you as a coach like to call a timeout?
I would like to call a timeout when there is been a lot of turnovers like this. Give your team a chance to breathe. A lot of the times, if there's turnovers, you're tired and you need some water, especially in this heat. So it gives your team a chance to have that water, but it also gives your team to kind of cool their heads down a little bit, because as you go along, there's more and more drops or errant throws. You get tired. Decision making is harder when you're tired, and your emotions get higher. And so just taking a breath and kind of resetting both your emotional state and your body state so that you can move forward in a calmer and better manner on the field. So this is definitely a good time to call a timeout, in my opinion.
Good job, team, for calling that timeout. Now offense gets a certain amount of time until they have to set. And then once they're set, they're not allowed to move anymore. And defense comes, and then they're allowed to set up. Without observers, this whole process takes a lot longer than it should. I love observers. Big fan.
We have Chichi Oaxaca on defense, Caleb Breton with the disc. Both of these teams opting for vertical stacks when being guarded person to person so far. Breton, so sisterly love their connection with the big huck against a Nadeau, who reads it well and catches that one in the end zone. And that is another break from Origine. 7-3.
6-3. So that's Breton's, Meva Breton's second assist of the game. I really loved the way that offense just looked right there. It all happened because the person who picks up the disc is able to get off a nice break throw, which allowed the entire offense to be open down the field. So if you're a junior and you're listening to this and you want to know what you should be working on in the offseason, it's touch break throws. That is such a huge asset, not only in juniors, but beyond. As you get into older adult play, it becomes a necessary thing that all players need to have. But at juniors, right now, it's a gift. That small thing opened up the entire offense for their team.
We have another timeout. It looks like, not sure who called this one, but
I believe it
Danny,
was
did
Toro.
you know that both of these teams have twins sisters competing against one another?
Do you want me to lie to you and tell you that I didn't know that? I did. Wow. That is pretty rare. I feel like it would be fun to put all the twins on all of the teams onto one team and send them to a tournament and just freak everybody out.
That would be
It is
very
actually
funny.
like quite hard to play against identical twins.
It is.
Especially when they go like numbers like 22 and like 23 or 22 and 33.
It can be challenging to coach them too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know if I've coached. Oh, I have coached identical twins. I've coached the Jeff Bell's kids, Tessa and Daphne Bell.
Oh, nice.
They're starting to not look as similar. You know, you get your own personal style and stuff, so it is easier. But
I
definitely play
coached the
similarly.
Thompson twins back in the day.
Oh,
That was a
yes.
very long time ago. That was the last year that CJUC was still co-ed before it split to open and women's.
They're pretty good players, I guess.
Yeah, not bad. Hi, Helen and Becky.
Shout out. Come back to Canada, please.
But on both of these teams, the twins on both teams have actually done an outstanding job at contributing a lot to their team. The Breton twins on Origine and the Oaxaca twins on Toro. So they're both standouts players on both teams. So that's pretty something special as well.
They say that there's 3 or 4 Bretons total.
3. There's the twins, and they have an older sister on the team as well.
And then there's 2 La Chasseurs as well, and they know they have 2 younger sisters that also play Ultimate. So it's a family affair in Quebec.
Whoa, a very close D from Enrique, but Toro hangs on to it. A little diving catch from Oaxaca. Looks like there's just been a minor injury getting up, but it looks like she's fine. Centers to Bala. And there is a call on the play.
Definitely a bit of confusion on the field, but we have a couple Toro players on our sideline with us, and they're having fun. They're doing some Toro cheers, having a good time. I got a thumbs up. Go Toro.
Bala looking upfield. Big OI huck. Unfortunately, there was just misstep by Hunter trying to get to that disc, and she's calling a foul because I think she was just a bit tripped up there.
Yeah, you see it's quite a common call in juniors, and I think that it's kind of a complicated rule because yes, I'm sure there was a trip, but did you have a play on the disc? It's also sometimes hard to know whether you would have had a play on it because you don't really know whether you would have been able to get there or where the disc was. So these ones end up being quite complicated calls.
So observes are again just giving the teams time to sort it out for themselves before stepping in. They won't step in again unless someone asks them to.
This is my PSA. If you're on defense and you think that you're right, go to the observer. Coach tips with Danny and Troy. How to use timeouts? Check. How to use observers? Check. Now, have you coached teams where on the sideline, if the players or the coach agreed with the particular call your player was making, they did some sort of like signal that you should think about it or I agree with you?
Absolutely. It's a nice thing to have. Often we would put our hands behind our heads if we had something that we could say or contribute. Hand on top of your head if you agree. Hand on your chin if you didn't. Something like that.
Oh, like think about yeah,
like
on
think
your
about
chin,
it.
ponder. Yeah, I think it's quite spirited to kind of let your team know that you think maybe they're making a bad call.
Looks like the result of that was a contested foul, so it went back to thrower. So Bala with another big throw to the end zone, but this time it's definitely knocked down. by Enrique from Origine. Nice little IO pass back to Enrique. Jordan with the huck to Chardonnay, who brings that down. Lebonte streaking to the end zone, but Chardonnay does the smart move, looks back for the handler, but Enrique's throw just a little too low to the ground. Bala with the big huck again, and a second interception from Enrique.
Timeout being called. That is their final timeout of the half. So you only get the 2. Now, the rule has changed. It used to be if you accidentally called a timeout when you didn't have one, it would result in a turnover. And now it results in a stall count addition of 3.
That sounds right.
But if you're at stall 8 when you call the timeout, is it then a turnover?
That's a really good question. We should ask the observers.
Andrew Batchelor, are you watching this? Please slide into the DMs of Ultimate Canada. No, he's not. Oh, darn. Who's going to fact check me? I need somebody to keep control over me.
We can ask the observers at halftime.
That's true.
Now, for those of you wondering what those little orange bean bags that the observers carry and throw out on the field randomly are, those are used when the disc crosses the out of bounds line on the sidelines, and so that the observer can mark where the disc crossed the line. So if you're on the field and you're unsure of where to bring the disc back in because it went out of bounds, just look for one of those little observer orange bean bags, and that's where you can bring it back in.
Originally, I thought that those were the observers, like the stress toys, maybe like a squeezy thing. When I first saw them, I just thought that they were having the little stress toy thing.
I thought it was football, like a foul in the play, a flag is thrown,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, Enrique picking up the disc for Origine. Looks like TORO's setting up a bit of a junk defense here. Maybe a sideline trap. Enrique over the top and into the hands of Jordan. Oaxaca trying to get that D, but not quite reach.
Unfortunate drop just through the hands. Sometimes those small little quick passes are hard to catch.
You have to be careful to put enough spin on those in the wind. You want to put just a little bit of touch, but it's very difficult. Huge huck looking for that end, someone to bring it down in the end zone from TORO, but Origine player will just knock it out of the way. And we're really seeing the effects of the wind and I think the heat. It looks like the women on the field right now are getting a bit tired, looking for slightly maybe more rushed throws and rushed decisions, but
trying to do some fast breaking, but just needing to focus a little bit more on fundamentals.
Bala with the disc now for TORO.
Nice centering pass.
Centers through a layout bid from Enrique, but Bon able to hold on to that disc. Back to Bala. Bala looking for the end zone again, just bounces out of the hands of Weatherup. Seems like Bala's first look is that huck and that deep end zone look each time.
Every time, just slings it, wanting her teammates to make a play. And it looks like TORO is opting to play in a little bit of a zone again.
Danny, what are the advantages of a little junk look like this off the first pass on a sideline?
Yeah, because if Origine has any kind of set play or thing that they're really comfortable doing, obviously Origine is quite good at throwing and they're athletic and like to go deep. And so this allows TORO to be able to put their best, biggest player deep. So it takes away that threat, puts a lot of pressure on the throws. Obviously, we're seeing that people are struggling with throws a little bit right now. So more throws is better.
Wood with that D, but unfortunately TORO can't convert. And so Origine will get the disc back, looking to tap it in quickly, move it up the field as quick as possible so that TORO does not have time to set that defensive zone again. Origine slowing it down a little bit to take their time this time. Leclerc looks for that huck, decides against it. And Enrique bids for that disc, and Bala just gets a little bit in the way there, and she can't get position to maintain possession for Origine. And looks like she might be calling an injury now.
Okay, coaching question again for you. We got to take advantage of the fact that we're both
Absolutely.
here. If you're Toro, do you forcibly change one of your players too? Because one player goes off with an injury, the other team is allowed to sub one person as well.
100% I do, especially in a point this long. You cannot have a pair of fresh legs out there from your opposing team and not put a fresh pair of legs on yourself. You have to take advantage of being able to put on a person from your sideline that's not been playing for the last 10 to 15 minutes and isn't tired.
Especially when Origine puts on their U20, U24 player, Mylis Lechasseur, as fresh legs.
Yeah, that would do it. Are you of the same mind?
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
know that can be really hard on some athletes that are really wanting to stay on the field. But if you can put on one of your offensive players when you're on offense, absolutely, I'll do it. You just got to get them used to it.
Throw to Bond for a gainer this time. Back to Bala. You can tell she wants to huck it. Instead, she finds Hunter. Little gainer. Back to Bala. Now comes the huck. Looks a little short, but it looks like it's going to find Weather Up anyway. And she is a nice little quick pass into the end zone for Kagendran. Oh, no, sorry. That's Saana for the score.
All right. We have a score of 6-4 now. So Toro keeping it within reach. We've seen games that were with bigger deficits become tied. So this is definitely not over. There's lots of game left. Toro's just got to keep this momentum going.
I have a question for you this time, Danny.
Yes.
What is the biggest deficit you've either come back and won from or started up and lost from?
I don't actually remember a big one to start up and lose by a lot, luckily. But okay, this one doesn't count because we didn't come back to win, but we did. From my perspective, I felt like we were one bad call away from tying it. But this last U24 cycle, we were down 4-10 in the semifinal, and had a call to like bring us to 11s. So that would have been one of the bigger deficits to come back from coaching.
That's a pretty big one.
I
6 points. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine in adult club there's any big ones. I know Traffic was up 3 breaks on Brood Squad at US Open and ended up losing that game. And that's pretty unusual in adults. But I feel like in juniors, you do see it a lot more, like 4 or 5 point swings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you the same question next point.
All right, I'll be prepared. Kagendran with the pull for Toro. La Rochelle. Over to Manzi. An interception from Merrill. Toro with a chance for their own break. Bala picking up that disc. Will she huck it again?
Of course.
Yes, she will. And lucky enough, she has a good receiver, Hall Smith, able to read that well and bring it down just outside the end zone. Oaxaca. Oh, that's Bala. Pardon me. Kagendran finds Forbes again right outside the end zone. There has been a travel call.
Now, I know that there's some new stuff with traveling as well, where you're not necessarily just supposed to call every travel that happens. There has to have been a perceived advantage gained from the travel. So if you throw it and your foot just like lifts a little bit, but it didn't actually get you away from the mark, you're not really supposed to call those ones anymore.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it just slows the game down, and it allows for teams that assume that people are calling those types of travels to slow the game down. It eliminates that. But you could always just argue, I do believe you had an advantage. You're like, well, okay. So travel calls will be travel calls, but they are trying to fix the rules to make the game go a little bit faster and to make it so that these calls don't kind of disrupt the flow of a team too much.
The disc will come back to Kajendran. We probably won't be able to tell here what stall count it's coming in at. If it comes in at a higher stall count, that means it was contested. An uncontested would be.
It's coming in on 4 or 5, it looks
Okay.
like. Nice shot.
Unfortunately for Origine, the travel call was in TORO's advantage as that one extra pass got them a score and a break instead.
All right, so we are within 1 now, which is extremely exciting. I have said this multiple times on the broadcast already, but I don't have a particular horse in this race, so to speak, but I do like close, exciting games. I love it when it feels like it means something, and I think it's something we call like a beautiful sadness to lose a tight game, or it's like a divine happiness when you get to be a part of something that everybody on the field wants so badly and means so much, and it's just such a unique, wonderful opportunity for these young athletes to be a part of a game that it has this kind of momentum and weight behind it.
I've never heard those terms before. I really like that.
Beautiful sad. It's like when you lose your final game with a team that you love, and like, you know, it's better to have loved than lost than never to have loved at all. It's that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's hurtful.
No, it's very true though. I've definitely been a part of those games where you both teams are fighting so hard and want it so much, and the game is just so wonderful. But then you don't end up on top, and that it's a beautiful sadness.
Devastating. So many people don't have passions and hobbies out there. So how lucky are we to get to see all these young people just pursuing their dreams out here?
Origine not quite getting 7 players on the line, just having to make sure they have enough players on the line before TORO can pull. And that's Bedi with the pull. Leclerc to an up the line Enrique. Little IO break there, my favorite throw. To Le Chaussee. Back to Enrique. Swing to open up some space to DeFore. You're seeing some really nice patience from the Origin offense right now, really not trying to force anything upfield. Waiting for their downfield stack to reset and get a very nice open line. Le Chaussee now just outside the end zone. And there was a foul call before the turf disc.
Was there a foul also on the throw, though? It kind of looked like there was an arm in the way.
It might have been.
Again, hard to see from where we are. So it would be offsetting fouls, or what do they call it? They have to deal with both of them separately.
Yes. Well, I believe technically it would be Enrique's foul that would be dealt with first, but hers didn't really interfere with the play and had no outcome on the play. So if Le Chaussee was not fouled and it just a turf disc, I believe it would be a turnover. But yeah. Le Chaussee is also calling a foul on the throw. So the observer is explaining the possible scenarios that if you contest, this is what happens. If you don't contest, then this is what happens. And then if you can also come to him for a ruling.
Observers having a quick little discussion to make sure that they're on the same page.
Sometimes if one of them didn't see exactly what happened, they'll check in with the other one to see if they saw what happened. Okay, so it does look like Le Chaussee was not actually fouled on the throw. She was just echoing the foul that her teammate had called. The observer ruling was that the foul did not affect the play. So the foul did occur, but it did not affect the outcome of the play, so the turnover will stand.
Lots of spirit happening. The two players kind of involved in the call, giving each other a high five.
That's really nice to see, especially in a close game like this.
Yeah.
Norris with the throw and a beautiful catch. Contested catch again there to Oaxaca. I think Weather up with that first contested catch. Back to Norris. An Io huck downfield. Oh, and it will be a contested catch. If it is a tie, it does go to offense. And it looks like Origine is calling that an offensive disc.
That was an
So
incredible
Toro,
grab.
Yes, it was. She was behind her and just came out in front. That was Bond with that catch. Now looking for Toro to clean up their end zone a little bit. Norris knocking on the door. An overarching throw to Oaxaca, and Toro tie the game.
We love momentum shifts over here. Oh gosh, this is exciting. I think there's nothing more than I love than games that are basically like universe type games.
This is a very exciting game. If you're just joining us now, we had Origine with a first break kind of early on in the game, and then another break fairly shortly after. Toro down by 2. And Toro just in the last part of this first half has come back with their own 2 breaks now to tie the game. So we're going on to a universe point for half right now.
I feel like Origin, from what I'm seeing, is playing a little bit more of a technical style of ultimate. Like they're trying to work more dump swings, like they're being a little bit more conservative with their choices. Whereas Toro is like, you know what, we're going to ride the hot hand and we're going to boost it and let our athletic players come down with it. And it's just 2 totally different approaches. And right now, Toro has all the momentum in their corner, and Origin needs to regroup a little bit.
If I'm Origin, I would have loved to have another timeout right now, but unfortunately they have none left, and they just have to rely on the momentum changing based on the full efforts of their players going out there and doing it.
There were a couple times there that I would have liked for Origin to send it deep. We had Mylis Lechasseur like hunting in the end zone there, and the throw didn't come up. I would have absolutely have thrown that. If you have like a receiver that you know can sky people and can box people out, just may as well just let them cook.
Bala with the pull. Enrique playing a little small ball there with Breton.
Oh, I got my wish.
You did get your wish. Breton with the huck to Nadeau. Finds an up the line streaking Enrique just outside the end zone. Nadeau tries to follow up the end zone, but Enrique looks her off. Instead, she finds Leclerc in the end zone, an upwind point to take half for Origine. Oh, I'm sorry, it is not half. That's only 7-6. I just got too excited.
Well, I wasn't sure if you knew something I didn't about the time cap, because I think that it is been 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's possible that is half.
Oh, okay, just kidding. I wasn't wrong. I just knew more than I thought I did about the time.
You're just like so insightful, Joey.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm happy to be commentating with you, so we can talk about coaching and our thoughts on this game. And right now, this has been, again, no shade to anybody else. This has been my favorite game so far of the tournament. This is incredible. Huge throws, big bids, lots of skies, blocks. It's got everything. Momentum shifts. It's been electric, and I'm super excited to see what happens in the second half.
The only thing that could possibly make this better is if I were over in the beer tent.
Same. Do they have cider there too? Like the beer makes my stomach hurt a little bit.
You know, I'm not sure. We should check on that. I sometimes prefer a nice cold cider as well.
All right. Well, this has been a very exciting first half. We'll take a little bit of a break and we'll be right back for the second half.
It should be Origine pulling. We are back on this beautiful sunny Monday late afternoon at Canadian Ultimate Champions Junior Division with TORO from Toronto versus Origine from Quebec City in the women's division. It's been a very exciting game so far. Origine is only up by 1 point. It went to time cap for our halftime, so the score is 7-6 right now, and there's been 2 breaks apiece. And they're just realizing they're on the wrong side of the field, so now just putting a little bit of extra work by jogging to the other side.
Just get re-warmed up. Sometimes the halftime, your legs kind of build up the lactic acid. But just to remind you all that this game matters and why it matters is that TORO lost to another team in their pool, Nitro, by 1, and Origine beat Nitro by 1, and the other team in their pool is going to win all their games. It's Dino. And so basically the situation TORO's in is if they can win this game by 2, they come second in the pool, which is a much better place to finish. But if they lose, say, by 2, then they're last place in the pool. So this game, every single point, if you can feel it on the field, it's because it does matter.
That's some like tight circumstances.
So the fact that they're fighting this hard is unsurprising to me.
Dufour with the pull from Origine. Center to Shimoda. Shimoda up the line to Hall Smith. And a big tried to be a big hug, but up the wind, Betty couldn't quite find the right amount of spin or angle on that disc. And so there is a turnover and Origine going downwind now. That's Breton, another Breton up to Dufour. Leclerc in the center. Origine again showing their patience on the disc. Le Chausser with the big huck to the end zone, and she finds Asselin for the score.
That was just such nice touch put on that throw, and I know that we've been talking about people kind of struggling with the edge on some of these or the weight on some of these throws, but Le Chausser just takes that extra second, makes sure of it. That was a beautiful, beautiful offensive point there.
I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of skill that it takes to throw a downwind touch throw, because typically when you're throwing in the wind, you have to put so much spin on it going upwind, and then going downwind, you actually want to take a little bit of the spin off of it and have a little bit more touch so that it doesn't just go zipping by all of your defenders.
And when I did say offensive point, what I meant to say offense, that was actually a defensive point for Origine.
That was a D break right off a half.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So momentum back in the court of Origine out here. So TORO, you've shown us that you can do it. I believe there's so much time left. Just give us a universe point game. Come on, give the fans what they deserve back home. One thing that I would maybe try doing if I was Origine against this TORO offense is it's clear now to them, it should be anyways, which of these TORO players like to put it. And some players you're like, oh, well, they're not connecting. We don't care if they huck it. But there have been some players that are connecting with people deep, and maybe you'd want to change the force on them a little bit because that's kind of been their entire offensive play.
Breton with the upwind pull for Origine. Looks like ball is picking up. And we're seeing a zone look again. Bala with the huck. Didn't even look like she had anyone deep, but what an amazing catch from Weatherup. That is a trust your receiver throw right there. Bala now outside the end zone with a quick lunging backhand throw for the score to TORO.
What did I just say? It's like that is literally the player I meant that they should change the force on, and then that happened. And I mean, to be fair, like the teammates around them, they're popping off. They're making really athletic plays to be able to ring these things in. But we need to find. I would go straight up, to be perfectly honest. I go absolutely straight up as hard as possible on that player. Just don't let them huck it.
Absolutely.
It's
Bala
been
has
very exciting.
hucked almost every disc that she has touched,
And
I would
almost
say.
every single one has been completed. It's incredible. It's incredible.
And Origine has still not quite contained. Although, to be fair, in that last huck, she had no receiver. There was no one there. And to me, Weather Up came out of nowhere and just read that disc like her favorite book and put it right into her own hands.
Yeah, Weather Up is making some incredible catches out here.
TORO would like to give a little bit of a shout out to the Havoc girls, as well as one of their coaches that couldn't make it to the tournament, Vicky Shimoda. So if you are watching, Vicky Shimoda, your co-coaches say hello.
And your team loves you and they're fighting for you right now.
Those nice floating pulls can give the defense such an advantage because they give them time to get down, and then the offense doesn't have a first free pass. But Enrique showing she doesn't need a first free pass. Gets it up to Le Chaussee, who now finds Dufour just outside the end zone. Back to Enrique, moving that break right along to the far side. And a great pass, Le Chaussee, into the end zone.
That
for
was
a nice,
really
easy score.
Really pretty offense.
Yes. I mean, I say easy, but it was just, it was like
fundamentals.
Yeah, it was fundamentals.
It's clear that they've been working on this kind of way to get out of the kind of like break side. So they had clear dump, stunning swing, well-timed cut into the end zone, really confident step out and throw on that. That was just textbook ultimate there.
As one of my previous coaches used to say, there ain't no thing like a dump swing.
There ain't no thing like a dump swing. I love that. That was Naomi Lechesser with the throw there. So that's the younger sister of Maëlys Lechesser. So we have a score of 9-7 right now. There's been little baby runs and little breaks here and there, but in general, we've been kind of trading-ish. So it's been a really great game. This is a really great matchup. One thing I do want to say about this TORO team is that a few of them actually competed, I think, in the open division last year for fours. So we had Isabel Norris or Izzy Norris play for stud. And we also had Addison Wood playing for stud. And I also believe Asha Hall Smith. So they've been playing all over the place.
Origine with the floaty pull, giving their cup time to set up. Weather Up now. Unfortunately, just not enough lunge in that to keep that disc off the ground. So Origine, Manzi with the disc. Looks like there's a little bit of a call on the play. Origine player might have been stepped on by accident. It happens. Everyone's okay, though, it seems like, and just needed a moment to maybe fix the cleat. Manzi with the IO break. And a huge bidding grab from Nadeau in the end zone. Origine with another break.
That happened so fast, I didn't even get a chance to see who threw it. Disc was tapped in, and then it was boom, score. The cleat has also come off here on the player. It's a nice bid. You know, when you bid like that, it's because it's a little far. You can probably stay on your feet to catch it, but it feels just a bit safer to leave your feet, pancake catch it, and just cradle it kind of like a football.
You know what they say, you should always catch with two hands whenever possible. Like your one-handed grab should only be if it's impossible to grab it with two hands. And we've seen a couple of girls throughout this game going for that one-handed catch when they could have caught it two-handed, and it gets pushed away, especially in wind like this, because you never know if the wind is just going to change the disc's trajectory just a tiny bit, and that's enough to make that one-handed catch pretty much impossible.
Yeah, we saw this especially last night in the showcase game. There's also a lot of people trying to catch with their thumbs either high or low two hands, and it was quite a bit more blustery yesterday. So whenever there's a strong wind or it's gusty, if you can catch pancake even, or like crocodile or whatever you want to call it. What do you call this one? Pancake?
Pancake.
Yeah, if you want to catch it pancake, that is definitely the safest way to catch when it's windy.
Look at us. Can't get away from coaching.
Everybody at home, go practice your pancakes.
Your pancakes and your break touch throws. Here from Team Canada coach Danny Proby.
Fun fact for all of you, Troy was actually going to coach me on a Team Canada, but it got canceled back in the day.
Aw, silly COVID ruining plans.
Would have been fun.
That would have been fun.
Troy only picked me because I play like her, touch break throws. Smart, conservative.
I picked you because you're a fantabulous player, which we're going to get to see later in the week. Very excited for that.
Yes, I am excited to play. This will be my third nationals this year. Played in masters, commentated juniors, and play in seniors, which has been very fun. I like not really having a real job, being able to just be around frisbee all the time.
Enrique with the pull from Origine. She's been a real staple of their both O and D line, I would say. Bala, Origine's Cup trying to contain Bala's big throws, and it looks like they will do it, but there might have been a call. It might be a bit of a foul on the throw there. It did look like a kind of an awkward position to be throwing from, but it was hard to see if there was any contact from this angle.
The defender was kind of behind Bala there, so I'm kind of confused about this. Couldn't quite get a good look at it, so I'll be curious to see what the outcome is. We did get confirmation earlier about the whole.
Okay. So that hand signal was a foul, and then the two hands on the shoulders means it's an observer ruling. So they did go to the observer, and the observer did agree that it was a foul.
Okay,
so
there you go.
Thank you, Sandra Hansen, for making your hand signals so very clear for us on the sideline to read.
That is amazing. It is extremely helpful.
LaSalle, again, I think that was one of those one-handed, you could have gone for a two-handed grab there, unfortunately. So Origine centering the disc to Leclerc, back to Enrique, and a nice quick score. Excellent timing from the stack there to La Chaussee.
The baby one. That was a really, really great give and go movement by, was it Enrique's?
Mm-hmm.
Enrique, like just blasting up the line, is immediately throw and go on the flick, which is a skill you don't see often in juniors, to be able to throw that forehand to the open side. Your defender is putting on a flick mark, so they're now on the wrong side of you, and you already have 2 steps on them running up the open side. So we saw a big up line being gained, and then a nice throw into the end zone to Naomi Le Chasseur.
I got to say that Enrique has gotten quite a few Ds and some big gainers for Origine this game. This is her first assist of the game, and she doesn't have any goals either. But I've been saying her name. Oh, so this is her second assist, pardon me. But I've been saying her name so very often. It feels like she should have more stats on the board.
Probably more hockey assists?
Yes.
Or what do they call them? Assisty assists? There's another name for them.
Second assist in hockey.
Oh, second assist. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hockey assist.
I think the hockey assist is a good term, though. I think a lot of people call them that.
So it kind of feels like the win is slipping out of Toro's hands at this moment. I'm not going to say that they're out by any means, but they're currently down 11-7. So
it's a bit more of a hill to climb right now.
It is a bit more of a hill to climb, and this hard cap is going to be going off in about 10 minutes. So if Toro wants to score, guess what they got to do? Pick it up and boost it again and again and again. Luckily, they've got Shimoda going to pick up the disc. We've seen her boost it a couple of times.
Bala taking a break this time, so we won't see a boost from her. The zone seems to be working well for Origine. They've been able to capitalize in a few turns, so they are putting it on again. Patel down the line to Wood. Back to Patel. Weather up. Shimoda. Up to Patel again. Handler's working it well, but just too low, unfortunately, for Wood to hold on to. So Origin forcing TORO to pass it so much works in their favor, and they opt to boost it, but Weather Up says, not in my house. And she knocks it down.
I'm absolutely loving this sideline. They're only allowed to have 2 players on the sideline where the camera is, but there's these 2 players from TORO that you can't tell they're down by 4. They're screaming. They're like helping their teammates out so much. They have so much fire.
That's Morel and Filippetti there. Okay, Manzi looking for the end zone. It looked like Shimoda got a little piece of that disc. And a little bit of a hand block there to keep TORO back on offense and then give them another shot. Sometimes a little D like that can just really boost your team's morale. So we'll see if it works in TORO's favor right now.
I know you're just talking about Nat Morel here on the sideline, but she actually holds a national age group record as a top swimmer for her age.
Wow.
So knows how to compete.
That's amazing. Well, it looks like Origin's zone worked well for them, forcing a backwards pass into their own end zone that was incompleted. So no Origin knocking on the doorstep, looking to make the score 12, and they will call a timeout. Danny, why would you call a timeout in a situation like this?
I mean, I wouldn't, but I know a lot of people will, because it allows everyone to kind of calm down a little bit. And I think I said this before, that with juniors, I think they're less experienced at going from being highly emotional, fired up on D, playing zone, to having to be calm, composed in the end zone. And sometimes you can just sense that you're like vibrating at a frequency that's too high, and you need everyone just to calm down a little bit. So maybe you want to call a specific end zone play. I like calling some weird stuff in the end zone, but if I'm TORO, I'm like, sweet. Now all my defenders are going to be arrested, and I'm going to poach.
This is very true.
Did I say anything that differs from what you have as a perspective on this?
No, I don't think if I were the handler picking up that disc, I probably wouldn't have called a timeout. And maybe if it was a really quick disc, like everyone was milling about and trying to get into position. But by the time she went and walked into the end zone, walked back to the front of the line to call that disc, it seemed like her team had already had a good amount of rest time and time to set up. And that's really why you call a timeout, is to like give your team time to set up. And they already were. So I kind of agree with you. And I'm not quite sure I would have called a timeout there as well. But there's always things that could be happening on the field that we don't know. Like maybe you're right. Maybe she could sense in the air that her team was just feeling a little jittery and they needed just an extra second, because they put this one in the basket, and that's some good momentum they're keeping. Ooh, a little bobble, but Manzi holds on to it. Unfortunately, I think that the timeout worked in the defensive favor this time. They were able to get their legs underneath them, and just they had a little bit more grit to put some pressure on.
Calling a double team here. I was actually just about to say, it does seem like this zone has been quite close this game, and you're only allowed to have that one person within 10 feet of the thrower. The other 2 people can be outside of that, marking the thrower, but as soon as they're in that space, they need to be guarding another player in that space, and there aren't any there. So obviously the person with the disc must have called double team or asked people to back up. They didn't sense that they were being backed up. Now the observer is getting involved. So if they don't back up and drop a count, then it's a violation.
Shimoda. Oh, that was a great catch. And the observer is calling it inbounds. Addison Wood with towing the line there.
That was amazing.
A little piece from the defense. Bond keeps a hand on it. Back to Shimoda. Gets it through the middle of the cup. Gets that space that TORO needs. Weather up, bombing it downfield.
Pretty nice looking throw.
Yeah, that was a really nice looking throw. Just I think the wind caught that a little bit too much. Wood couldn't quite get there.
Can we talk about that catch for a second, please? That was incredible. That toe the line.
That was an incredible catch. Manzi now looking downfield for Origine. Ngodui.
Too much of a wind up there on that throw. Got a little too excited. When you see a receiver that you like super open, sometimes you get too excited.
Patel centers to Weathercup. Little over the top throw to Patel. Keeps her cool with a closing mark. Wood. Shimoda. Back to Patel. Finds a break through the cup to Bond. TORO taking a little bit more time. Unfortunately, throws it to a player that's just running away from her instead of coming towards her. And so there was a drop. And Origine with another chance. Manzi now with the disc. Ngodui. Lesard, but a pick was called, so it will go back to thrower.
A lot of times I feel like people get this pick rule wrong too. They might not have actually been that close when the pick happened. And oftentimes they just end up standing right beside them at the end. And I'm like, that's okay. We'll learn this rule later.
An overarching break from Ngodui, but can't quite connect with Breton.
You know what's good about this point, though, if you're Origine, is you're keeping this TORO line on the field for a long time, working down the clock, making it even harder for TORO to be able to come back into this game.
And the first thing that goes when you're tired is decision making. So oh, what a bid. Ngodui with a huge layout. D. Manzi now with the disc. Ngodui just every other disc. Now with the put. Huck down into the end zone, but Shimoda, it gets in the way. Just a couple of turns, one right after the other. Great defensive plays. Both teams showing they are not giving up yet.
We're about 2 minutes away from the cap horn going off. So this game, for all intents and purposes, is kind of over. You're going to see the teams kind of keep fighting all the way to the end. And that's the spirit that we love to see.
We had a D, but then a foul on the throw. It did look like there was a bit of contact on the throw there. Players are discussing it, which is good. The observer just steps in. A lot of times people think that the observers are coming in so fast and they want to make a ruling. That's actually not the case. They're just coming in so they can hear the dialogue so that if they do go to the observer doesn't have to ask for a recap to catch up on where they are now.
I know that there's some debates about people and like feeling like observers are refs, and that's kind of against the historical nature of Ultimate. But when I was coaching overseas and we had advisors and not observers, I can tell you I missed observers with my whole entire heart. Having somebody that can settle a dispute is just so helpful.
I agree. I do prefer observers over game advisors as well. Le Chaussee now with the disc for Origine up to Ngodui. Looking for Manzi, quick little dish pass over the top. Manzi into the end zone for Le Chaussee, putting Origine at 12 near to the end of this game.
Wouldn't be surprised to hear the horn go off. Oh, there it is.
As if on cue.
So they do not need to finish at this point. Do they need to finish at this point? No, they're done.
They don't have to.
The horn goes off. There's no way TORO can win this game. So I think they're going to have a little bit of a conversation. Because I think in theory, that means that at the end of this point, it's over.
Yes. Yes, because for those of you listening, a point starts basically as soon as a goal is caught. So as soon as a goal is caught, the next point will start. So it's not when the pull goes up like you might think. It's actually the time in between the points counts towards the next point starting.
Looks like we're calling it a game. So we have that as the final score, 12-7. So it looks like Origine will finish second in their pool. Nitro will finish third in the pool. I believe TORO will finish fourth in the pool. So we'll see Nitro and TORO dropping to play teams coming up from pool C and D. And then we'll see Origin playing against other teams in pool A and pool B in some crossover games.
That's going to be exciting games tomorrow. So
Cannot
please
wait.
join us again tomorrow. We have 4 more games on the live stream coming at you, another 2 open and another 2 women's. This has been Danny Proby and Troy Weston, or sorry, Danny Nicobe and Troy Weston. Sometimes I still forget.
Well, it's not legal yet, so.
For Ultimate Canada at CUC Junior. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the fields.
Bye.